So I think, a little bit of background. I think Molly, just since Laura and Jen weren't here the last time, we kind of walk through a lot, right, in that hour. So, Jen, I know you listened to it. Laura, if you haven't, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there as well too. And so, I could probably spend another 7 hours extrapolating on my thoughts on all of the things that we talked about on those different points. And listen, I'm no expert. I'm just some person who decided 2 years ago to figure out how to make video and social media work for me because I was starting my own business. And, it's, knock on wood, it keeps working. So, for me, it's more about sharing what I've learned with other people, right? Because I think, especially in the mortgage space, there are more than enough problems and there are people to solve them. And so the more we can help people who do awesome things get out there and share what they do, I think the better for all of us and where we need the industry to go. I think, to be honest with you, the other side of it, there's a lot of guys out there talking on social media, and no offense, I love a lot of them, right? And I think that they're doing a lot of good, but I think there's a big vacuum in the space, especially for women's voices, and especially for women's voices who might be over the age of 30 and have done something professionally more than a hot second, right? And are not just out there talking about social media. Nothing wrong with that, right? But I think there's a lot to learn. I went to Empower before MBA Annual this year, which was incredible. It was my first time going. My first time going to Annual, I just did all the things. I was like a kid in the candy store. Sign me up, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. So Empower was really great. And there was the McKinsey report on women in the workplace, which is, not the most positive read if you want to feel empowered about the direction of where women are going. But I think important, right, for us to know where we're at and the fact that we still have a lot of work to do in empowering the next generation of women leaders. And I think one of the most important things that we can do as women leaders is show up, right, and teach the next generation. Hi, thanks for joining us. Welcome to our little chat. And I think that showing up means not just showing up in one-on-one conversations, right? But modeling what it looks like to get out there and do the hard things. And getting on video isn't easy, right? It's hard. It is not something that, Liz just naturally does and looks at every video and goes, gosh, don't I look and sound great? I just love everything that I put out on video. No, I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. I can point out every single flaw, right? Every single time I point a video. But the guys aren't looking at themselves that way when they post because they're just not conditioned to from birth like we are, right? And so unfortunately, whether we want to admit it or not, there is an extra lens on top of the challenges that we have with getting onto video. And so in having these conversations and training and listening to a lot of the social media experts talk, I don't think they talk a lot or enough about the mindset it takes. And I think that women have a different challenge to solve, right, than guys do a lot of time getting on video. Now, everybody has, no, guys don't like the way they look and sound either, right? We're just way more critical. We let it hold us back more, right? It's the same as women applying for a job, right? Guys will apply what's the statistic if they meet like 5 out of the 10 things, and women have to meet like 10 out of the 10 requirements to apply for the job, right? We're just way more critical of ourselves. And so part of why I do what I do and I'm out here talking, especially to this group, is because I think it's super important for us to model this behavior and show other women and the next generation of leaders that your voice is important. And today, your voice is social media and digital media in so many instances. And so there is so much power in that. Thanks, Laura. I think for me, when I started out on this journey, I was petrified, right? Like I did not want to post a video. I didn't even want to post a post. Like, what am I going to say? What does anybody care about? Like, why why do people think I'm going to post this, right? Like, it just felt so unnatural. And so two things I think that were really important. And Molly, one of them is what you said we were going to talk about. And I'm going to tag on the second one, and kind of talk about them a little bit in parallel. But first is my why, right? Figuring out why I was showing up on video, on social media. Like, why was I saying the things that I was saying, right? Because I really had to get clear on that to understand if I wanted to like get super uncomfortable and do that. And then the second thing, which is part of the challenge that Molly is putting together for all of us, is I didn't do this by myself, right? I figured out folks that empowered me to feel confident in getting uncomfortable. And I at least had some folks co-signing that what I was doing wasn't totally stupid, which, let's be honest, isn't that kind of our fear? Like, what we're doing is just totally stupid. And why would anyone think that what we're doing was not stupid? And so getting clear on those two things, I think, was really my secret in being able to get out there and do the damn thing, right? I can swear on this. Do the damn thing, right, Molly? So I think on this call, and I know this is a small group, so I think, Molly, let's have a conversation about this. And I'm going to poke on you since you said you were thinking about this already. But I know when we got done with the last call, we kind of had a little debrief where, some of the feedback was, putting myself out there, I get it, like, be authentic, but like putting myself out there doesn't feel authentic to me, right? Because like, I'm not authentically someone who shows up on social media, right? Like, I'm not like snapping my food and snapping where I'm at and snapping my morning routine. And so like, how am I authentic on video, right? And so I think, Molly, what you and I talked about was like starting with, why are you showing, right? And I think that does two things. Number one, it helps you get clear on when that self-doubt comes in, reminding yourself what is greater, hopefully, than that self-doubt. Maybe not. Maybe you'll decide, I don't want to do this anymore, right? But at least we're clear on why we're doing it in the first place. And then it also informs that, what do I even say? And we're not worried about that yet, right? But I think getting clear on why you're showing up helps you figure out down the road what you need to talk about. And that doesn't mean like I'm showing up to build my business, right? That means I talk about everything I'm selling, but it does mean I think about who I want to build relationships with to grow my business. What are those people concerned about? What are those people interested in, right? Those are the types of things I think that tie into my why. Molly, before I turn it over to you, as I'm giving you some time to keep mulling some things over, last minute, if you want to make any changes in your head. As part of this challenge, I'm writing alongside with you guys because I am consistently putting myself out there in new ventures. And so my why for this challenge is I am going to launch my YouTube channel. That's not my why. That's my goal, right? Is to launch my YouTube channel. And my why for that is to increase my top of funnel visibility, right? Be able to reach new markets outside of mortgage and outside of my current business network, and really have some fun, I'll be honest, and grow my skills in long form video content in what is the number 2 search platform in the world and is continually growing. I believe in really taking advantage of what you have, and my videos, using who you have for your resource. My husband is my video editor, right? And so since I have a real leg up on video, it makes sense for us to dive into YouTube, which is a video only platform, right? It's not like LinkedIn where you can do a video. If you want to be on YouTube, you got to do a video. And so that's kind of the reasons that we're going all in on YouTube. And I'm going to be using y'all as my accountability group to keep me focused on that and push me into the great unknown. Because I'll tell you, as I sat down last week and tried to record my first YouTube video, Oh my gosh, it is a whole hell of a lot different than what I do for LinkedIn. And I got real uncomfortable real quick, and we had to take a few steps back, and we're going to re-record this week. So, there's always something that's going to be hard and challenging, right? We know that in everything in our life. This, like everything else, is about finding that why and like what is driving you past that hard part. So Molly, let's talk a little bit about, what you're trying to do and your why that you've been mulling over the past week or so after we talked.
Okay, so my important why for this challenge and for my elevating my personal brand is I need to get more women in our industry aware of Athena's Council and participating. And I really spent a lot of time thinking about that and thinking about is that a good distilled why? What do you think? Do I need to go deeper than that? Why do I care about that? Or is that just a given? Obviously, that's a good thing.
Well, I think a couple things. So I don't think I love ask why 3 times, then you really get to the root of what you're getting at. I don't know who said that or if I'm misquoting that, but I think that's something I heard at some point in time. So I don't think it hurts to get deeper, right? Because I think the deeper you get, all of those different layers help inform even more targeted who you want to talk to and what you want to talk about, right? And in what you want to talk about, what's important to the person that you are looking to come and join and participate, right? And so I'm sure part of the why is that you believe in the power of the community of women, right? And having mentors and peers who you have to support you and bounce ideas off of and challenge you in these ways, right? And so I think all of those things are things that then you can talk about as part of your social media campaign. And so I don't think you have to go deeper, but I think it always helps to keep going deeper, right? Because that's just going to help you in the long term target more and more.
Yeah, I was thinking, that big resistance to video, putting yourself on video and LinkedIn. We talked about at the beginning of this. It's oh, I hate how I look, blah, blah, blah. People are going to think what I'm doing is stupid, blah, blah, blah. But the more I thought about my why, which I think is what you're advocating, Liz, is, if one woman found Athena's Council, participated, and got a promotion or a raise, done deal.
Huge.
LinkedIn, you can laugh at me all you want. I don't even, to me, that is so less important, so much less important.
Yep.
So when I really focus on that why, I want her to succeed and to get more success. Then the negatives or the fears, it's seriously, laugh all day. I don't care.
Yep.
If somebody's getting a raise out of it.
Yep. I love that. And you made it tangible, right? You turned it into a person. You made it very, we all know, right? We can all see that person, right? We can all see that person finding community, meeting resources, finding the next job, getting a promotion, figuring out whatever that is. And so I think that helps us get over your fear. The other thing I would say is you said it the right way the last time, right? Your fear. Because in reality, people really aren't laughing, right? People really aren't out there. I mean, honestly, people are ignoring. There's a lot of that. People aren't seeing. It's in a best case scenario, only a third of your audience is ever seeing a single post you do, ever. And that is the best optimization of optics you are ever going to get. So just even think of it. Who you're afraid of seeing it probably isn't even going to freaking see the post to begin with. You know what I mean? So there's so much that we get worried about in our head of, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And And this isn't just in social media, right? It's putting ourselves out there for the promotion. It's joining a new group, right? It's so many other areas that as successful professional women, we have learned to put ourselves out there and get a little bit uncomfortable, right? This is just an area where, again, it's different, it's new. And as women, we're viewed as influencers negatively, right? Men who show up on video are just using sales effectively to sell. Men aren't really accused of being influencers on social media unless you're Greg Scher. And I say that with love to Greg and tease him about that all the time. So, I think that there is, Molly, that, again, getting back to that mindset, right? The deeper that why gets, and the more we can remember that this is just another way that fear that we've seen in other areas is exhibiting itself, and not letting it get in our way of getting where we want to go.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love
I'm going to refine. I'm going to make that why, like a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll share it with everybody here, on the call. But I think I'm definitely getting closer.
I love it. I do too. And I think, again, this is, for me at least, not something that is ever a one and done point in time thing, right? I go back, I plan my social media for 90 days, partially because, my business is only 2.5 years old. 2.5 years ago, I could only plan my business for 90 days because I didn't know what the frick I was going to be doing in the beginning, right? You're figuring it out. And so, but I think with marketing in general, right, you have to keep looking about what you're doing, where you want to go, what's working, what's not. And so again, we're constantly going to be looking at this why. You're constantly going to be revising it, tweaking it, right, as you're doing things, figuring out this feels good, this doesn't, this makes sense, this doesn't, right, and refining it. So I love that, Molly. I think it's a work in progress, right, just to keep getting more and more clear on it as you keep, communicating that and working through it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that, Laura. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to be brave like Molly and talk about, kind of what they're looking to do? Yes, Jen, I love it. Let's go. Talk to me about why you're showing up and what your goals are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay. So because I listened to the recording of the first one, been thinking about it, and I took some additional notes while you were talking and expanded on it. But it's kind of two purposes. My first one is internal branding within my operations team. So that's where I initially started, and I added some additional things. But I'm taking on a new role 2 months in. And so using it to elevate myself and to influence others to elevate themselves. That's the part I added as you were talking, because I have a lot of great female leaders under my influence who I know have unlimited potential. So if I can maybe start this and share the journey with them and influence them in a way where they're elevating themselves as well. So internal branding within our ops team, and I don't quite know how to do that one and how you do that within your own organization only, but maybe that's up for discussion. But the second part of my why is external branding, which is to help myself with my own personal brand should I ever need it, but also for our recruiters. Just to help her. Our recruiter is very active on LinkedIn, and I had told her a year ago that I would, be her champion and help her and, do posts that she can share. And if she has a post, I will share and repost with thoughts and all those different things. So I kind of have two whys that are totally different. And I don't know for this challenge if I should just pick one or go with two, but
So first of all, thank you for sharing. I love everything you said, and your recruiter has to love you, right? I tell executives all the time, get on video. I mean, especially if you want to save time, right? I used to shove interviewees through my exec team, like to capture their greatness and their brilliance, and being able to just point to a LinkedIn page and be like, look at, this is our EVP of whatever. Look at how great she is. It's such a win-win. So I love that. You already have that in mind, because I think that's super smart. I would challenge, I agree it's two different audiences, right? I do agree with
For
that.
sure.
I challenge you that it's two different messages, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because what I think you're really doing is establishing yourself as a subject matter expert who talks about certain things, right? That would both, I mean, I don't think you need to show how smart you are in mortgage. You're right. I'm sure you're a genius. I'm sure we all are on this call, right?
Sure. Genius.
Why people really want to work for great leaders, right, is because of their leadership, is because of how they look at leading an organization, growing their team, recruiting, building strategy, right? Being a visionary. I think that's a lot of what you are then trying to model, right, for your internal leadership team of, hey, this is important, right, to get out there, not just for internally within the company, but especially, and I think this is true, especially in operations, because we, former ops manager here, right, so often just stay behind the social media firewall in our own company's ecosystem. I think we miss out on a lot of growth potential. I'm not saying from even hopping from company to company, but from mentors at other organizations, right? From learning from peers and friends that you might meet that do things the other way. And so I think if you identify the right content pillars, Jen, you really can be speaking to both of those audiences. And then what I would see you doing is every 90 days, you're going to look at how you're adjusting those topics, what audiences you need to be speaking to a little more, a little less. But I really do think you're going to be saying kind of a lot of the same things, or at least the Venn diagrams cross pretty heavily in the topics that would interest and be beneficial to both of those audiences. And then I think internally there's an additional layer, right? There's the coaching conversation that you're bringing into your team about why you're doing it, how you're strategically deciding what you're talking about, why this is important for recruiting, how this is important for, growth and connections. I think all of those things you can layer in, more training and conversations internally behind the scenes.
I hadn't thought that some of it could be the same message, but some of the things I had thought about when thinking about internal would also, I guess, be okay for external too, because my initial thoughts of the internal branding and helping myself and others were share vision and be insightful. That would be relevant to both. This one may not be so much, but part of it could be. I put share projects, progress, and industry details. A lot of, the ops team doesn't stay up on big industry, maybe compliance concerns or, lawsuits or, even things like the new administration and what that's going to do to the market. So sharing that sort of thing with them, I guess, could also be shared externally and be okay.
It's definitely something that I think, again, there might be an extra lens internally that you put on it deeper within an internal leadership conversation, right? That's like the next step of, and because of that, strategically, we're making the decision to, right? But I think there is, I don't know, is it called like the ops angle with Jen, where you talk about industry trends from the operations lens? You know what I mean? I think there is like a catchy little bit there that not only helps your team internally, right? They're probably topics that you're already going to be prepping to talk to them about, but also, again, as you're talking about showing yourself as an executive who's educating, informing, kind of talking head out there in the industry. I think that's an interesting angle to approach what some of the other people are saying, but figure out what that ops angle is, figure out how you're making that spin. And I think that's an interesting one for sure. You're on mute, Molly.
Sorry.
No.
I think that's really interesting, Jen, because as I think about the people who get a lot of views on LinkedIn in our industry, it's production. I mean, some government, like some people talk about that, but nobody that talks about those topics that doesn't ring a bell to me. I think that's a really unique message.
And when I look at my network, it is heavily on the sales side, but a lot of ops are dabbled in there as well. But I think that I know my internal team craves it, because when you think of like department manager level and down, they really don't know what you think they should know as far as the market trends and the things that, any trade groups out there battling for, with credit and everything going on with the cost of a loan and things like that. And so how does it affect their job and what they do every day and the changes they see every day, because we are constantly, rolling things out because we have to. I think the more transparent we could be, maybe they would just learn and elevate themselves, because they're learning above and beyond their daily task.
And I think it also gives people, especially when you talk about operations in our industry, I think that's probably one of the most volatile roles, right? And there's not a lot of sense of control you have as a former ops person and ops manager, right? That struggle is real. And so I think knowledge is power, and it might not allow you to control what's coming your way, but understanding what's being talked about and how it could impact you, I think is really, really needed, especially in the ops space. And so I think there's a lot of scariness, doom and gloom, no one ever has to hire anyone again because of AI. Oh, wait, people have to run AI and technology. We forget about that. Anyways, I digress. Sorry. And those people usually cost more than anyways, I'm sorry. Reality. That's not fun. It's fun to talk about AI, but it's scary, right? Especially if you're one of those people whose jobs will transform, right? And that should happen, right? Their jobs should transform from being a check the checker, move this to being more of a knowledge worker, which they are, right? They have a lot of skill sets there, but there's not a lot of people in that space being that expert, right? That voice of reason, really explaining that to the folks that are on the ground or looking for work or wondering if they still should look for work in the industry, or how these different things are going to impact, them in the next 90 days or, next year. I think that's super important.
When I just thought about, when talking about AI, my team knows I'm testing things, but they're, especially with underwriters and things like that, they think it will take over their job, just like automated underwriting did, right? No, it didn't. But they don't probably understand, and I have a lot I could share around that, as far as, we're so far away from that at my company, only because they may not understand. We have to look at the risk and the huge the security concerns around it before we can even put our plan together on how to use it. And so you don't even need to worry about that right now. So even talking about that, and here's what's more important right now in the moment. When I have more to share, I can share later and put people at ease just by, like you said, knowledge is power. That's a good idea.
And a 50,000 foot overview of that is, here's the thing that operational executives are considering. Yes, we are looking at these products, but there are things to consider, like risk and other things, which does, the cost of technology programmers and technology and AI, right? This isn't just a free, get rid of people cost, but I think this is, again, where I'm going to circle back to being women leaders and leading with empathy for the most part, right? We're more able to have those conversations. I mean, so many times I have to sit and talk to guys and say, I know you want to get rid of people, but remember, that's actually not the biggest benefit of why we're bringing this on. So could you stop saying that out loud first? Do you know what I mean? Like and so I think, again, when we're talking about like, there's a huge vacuum and room and need for multiple voices saying that in this space. And the guys, unfortunately, until we start modeling it and they go, oh, that's a good idea, right? They're not going to start saying these things organically themselves in a lot of ways. So I love that idea, Jen. I think there's a lot of room around that and a lot of need.
Yeah, I took some more notes. I'll keep kind of refining this and thinking through the different scenarios. I did have a question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
You had said a little bit ago about putting a 90-day plan together. Is that what you propose we do in this challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't plan out anything more than 90 days. Just because there's going to be some things that work and don't work, right? Like you're gonna learn some things along the way. And so, instead of getting frustrated and throwing everything out, I think it's better to say, okay, let's try something for 90 days and then come back and reevaluate. And so I would pick one platform, pick a schedule, pick what we're going to commit to from 90 days. And then after that 90 days, come back, reevaluate, and go from there. And that might even mean, Jen, that in 90 days, you determine that you completely switch the content pillars that you're talking about. Not because those didn't work, but because you've been getting great feedback and people want to know about this, or you're having a lot of conversations about this, or, this one thing took off so well, now you want to break this into 3 kind of different things going deeper. So I think it gives you the ability to kind of have that evaluation organically at a scheduled time in a way that makes sense.
Okay.
Good. Well, Laura, since you're the only one that's last, can I pick on you? Do you want to talk about your why, or are you going to silently hit in call and have bad technology connections now that I picked on you?
You can pick on me anytime, Liz.
I love it.
I don't do that. Thanks for having this call, and I want to listen to the recording. I started to, and then just time got away. So
life happens, especially this time of year. That's for sure.
It does. So I'm developing that, right? So you've heard me at Molly's events that, it's about being grateful and making sure people recognize that they've had impact on your life. That's a big thing for me personally. I like to compliment people when they are the connector. I know you've connected me with people. Molly has. And when you connect with people, what you're trying to do first is add value back to them. How can I help you? So to me, that's a big piece, because if you become valuable to them, you're going to be more top of mind. So in your connections with people, like you connected me with a couple great people, and those people I've connected with somebody else, right? And hopefully I can connect you with 2 of them. Mm-hmm. But the pieces, you find out how deep they are, what they are about, right? What's important to them. It's always finding out what's important to them. To me, not everybody's like that. And then recognize, you always pick up, or I can, I'm sure you guys can too. You always pick up something when you're talking or listening to people. You should listen more than you talk. First, right? And listen to understand what people are talking about and what's important to them. Like your puppies are important to you, your husband, you work together. Molly's girls, their school, how they made a move to put their girls, Madeline and Olivia, in these great schools, and how that's grown. Those are things that are important, and you don't have to try to remember everything about everyone. But when you can remember those little pieces, and when you connect with somebody, it's so huge.
I love that.
If you can, sorry.
I wrote down connection and gratitude, and those are definitely two words that I think of when I think of you, Laura. And so I
Yeah.
think it's a great why. And that's not just your why for getting out social media networking, right? Like that's like your why at your core too, which is awesome. And I think, again, as we talk about like really getting deeper and getting to the core of it, it just really helps us in our messaging, right? And how we tie ourselves to how we present ourselves to the world. And I think you are an example of someone that does that very, very well, just in your connections in everyday life. And I love that about you.
Oh, thank you. It is important. That's what you get to leave as we go through this life, right? Is how did you make somebody feel when you're not with them? Do they ever remember your name? Do they ever remember you? Does something pop up?
Yeah.
Hopefully you remember You're Simply the Best, right? Tina Turner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will send that video out randomly to people, or I will send a birthday video out from the Beatles, like, today's your birthday,
Mm-hmm.
And instead of doing a lot of that personally, I go and steal somebody's stuff off YouTube and send it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one huge piece. I worked with a gal who's a coach in the medical industry, which is just tough as finance and mortgage. Oh my gosh. And I coached with her for a while, and when our agreement was up, she said, I just don't have time to keep doing this. I said, you'll find the time if it's important to you. And she's climbing the ladder, which is great. She's climbed the ladder a couple times. But I asked her to really, what did she think about what we worked on with her together when I'm not in her immediate thoughts? Down the road, like in a couple weeks, just pop in, be quiet, and what do you think about me? So she made a really nice comment. She goes, well, you make people feel like $1 million. Okay, so how cool is that? I can't do that with everyone. I can't remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I can remember a lot of things and put them into CRMs and those types of things. I don't want to always rely on technology, because guess what? When you run into people, that technology isn't right there.
For sure. But I also think that there's people don't expect you to be able to recall everything on the spot, right? But I think by being intentional, it's been I've had a lot of words come out of this mouth today, ladies, so you're gonna have to deal with my intentionables. But I think by being intentional in the first place, right, about caring about it, about listening, about capturing, and about organizing, you are doing 99% of the work, right? And it's not that you're relying on technology. Technology is a very small piece of all of those things that I just said, right? It is just that you're using technology to help you keep those connections more, because our brain isn't built to store every single piece of information that we ever learn, right? And I don't think it's important that you are able to pull up a catalog of everything that you know about someone when you're meeting them face to face, right? But you already have that deeper connection with the person because you do know that you know all of those things, right? Just like, I mean, listen, half the time I see a friend that I've known for 20 years and I see them and I go, well, I'm blanking on, a name of a freaking kid that I should remember. You know what I mean? Like we're all like, all of those things happen, but it's the intention, right? It's the fact that you are, being thoughtful about your connections, being thoughtful about your gratitude. And I think that really goes. And I think, again, as we talk about things that are important to message and model, I'm a firm believer in technology, right? I do tech consulting. I think that technology is the future of our mortgage industry, but that also does not mean that I believe that we should still not be people focused, right? And, that means across the board, we need to keep showing the younger generation that it's not an either or, right? It's not I only can talk to people via text message and literally can't go into a room to network, right? I think there's a balance between how we show people, how we show up in different ways and embrace technology as well as those relationships too. So I think some things that are good and some things I honestly think would be great for you to talk about on social media, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about that, right? I think people are talking about data and numbers and a lot of things that I have a lot of opinions on that we don't have to talk about on this call. But I think once you talk about like, how do you use technology to build relationships, right? How can you make those things true at the same time? And I think that's an interesting thing to think about, right? I think that's where a fun conversation to have is.
No, thanks, Liz.
So let me make sure. I want to circle back to our whys. Like, we did mine, we did Jen's. For Laura, your why then, I want to make sure I understand it, is connection with other people, like to build connections with other people, genuine, meaningful connections. All right. And we have, for Jen, we have leadership and visibility, leadership internally for modeling and for educational purpose, but also visibility externally to satisfy your recruiting efforts.
I would say, I mean, I'm not going to say, but I'm going to say, Jen, I would say leadership externally to build your personal brand and help with recruiting, right? Because I think those things both are true at the same time, right? We make you look awesome. It's going to, which you are, we're just going to make you look awesome on social media. It's going to help with both of those things at the same time.
Okay, so if we have our whys kind of, at least we have them in a corral. I've been watching a lot of Yellowstone recently.
Should I start it? I haven't watched it. Should I start it, Molly?
Yeah, you should.
There's a lot to catch up on if you haven't started. I stopped years ago and I missed so much.
I need a good show with a lot of seasons.
Got it.
Yeah, I think you'd like it. Okay, but so we've got our whys in the corral. And then our next step is to really think about our team, like who do we know that we can tap to help us do this?
And the way that I would think about this, guys, is I'll talk a little bit about kind of my team and my process. So I told you my husband does my content creation. But before that, I work on all of my content pillars, as well as the topics that I'm going to be talking about with my business partner, right? So her and I sit down, we do quarterly planning sessions where we talk about, okay, are these the right topic? Are these the right content pillars still? Great. Okay, within those content pillars, how do we want to focus what Liz is talking about? And so then from there, I create my video topics, specifically my points. And then if I have some questions, I'll kind of banter back and forth with her. She's my, does this sound stupid person, right? So I think it's important to have a, does this sound stupid person. I then work with my husband to record. He records, he edits, he posts my videos. This is important for a couple different things. Number one, there is nothing harder than sitting in a room by yourself with a video camera. It is nearly impossible. So even now, he sits and records with me almost every single time I record. I'm not a hit a button, do this by myself type of person, okay? He also then edits me so I don't have to watch how I look and sound over and over and over again. He does make me watch and listen and approve every single video, which you have to do. You have to watch yourself or you can't get over it. If you do it consistently, I would say probably after about 15 videos, you probably stop absolutely wanting to gouge your eyes out every time you listen to yourself on videos, give or take, right? Depending on how often you do it. And then he also schedules and posts all of my stuff. That's just time consuming, right? If you're doing one video a month, or if you're just doing one video to pin on your LinkedIn page, that's not super important. But if you are, as you're starting to post more and more, especially Jen, if this is something that you're looking on to build on with recruiting, and you have a marketing team or a marketing person that you can leverage, I highly recommend that you do those things. So like, you have your, does this sound stupid? And then, does this look stupid person, right? And so those are kind of the way that I break it up. If it was me deciding what I was going to say, recording and editing myself, and then hitting post, I would never post a single thing. But like, it's so far outside of just Liz being in charge of all of this, it really helps with that process. And so my suggestion is, you know, Jen, you might have a marketing team. Molly, you have teenage daughters, right? These people have the same skill set that we're looking for in recording and editing, right? So I think you can leverage, you know, different resources you have in those ways. And by splitting it up, Molly, your daughters don't have to understand what you should talk about, right? You can find other people that you can work through those topics with, and then have the people that can help you physically produce this stuff on the back end as well too. And so those are the two people. And I guess it could be one person. I don't know. I think probably, unless you're paying money for it, it probably should be two. Like, even in your case, Jen, like, probably is more helpful to have even more people than just the marketing person help you ideate and content create and things.
I think so, for sure. Yeah.
Even just asking your leadership team, right? I think they're going to give you awesome feedback on that. Your recruiter is going to have great feedback on what to talk about as well too. And so I think, you know, being able to have, for you, it might be kind of a team of people that you work through some of those topics with as well too. But if I don't know, y'all could be stronger than me, but if it was me by myself, I wouldn't be able to do this. That's for sure. And so that's what I would challenge you guys to think through next. Who are those people that you want to tap on the shoulder? You know, and I think, sure, you can pay people to do it. I mean, we do social media strategy and things like that, but I think for what we're doing right now, there's a lot of power in the folks that you have, right? The hidden treasures, I like to call them, that you can kind of call on and tap. And so finding those people, you know, nieces, nephews, kids, grandkids, whoever we all have in our corner that's at that right age range, I think, you know, especially from the video production side, can be very helpful. And we've talked a lot about video too, and this will be kind of the last thing I end with, Molly. But remember, not every post is a video. So as you're thinking about your strategy, it is, what do you want to be video? What do you want to do pictures with messaging behind it? How do you kind of want to build those different types of posts to go in with the schedule? How long should the video be? Great question. As short as possible, if I'm being honest with you. Some of my best videos are the ones where I do blah, 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 blah in 30 seconds, and I try and beat the clock. LinkedIn, there's a lot of people that like to talk a long time. I would really doubt that those videos are getting long views all the way through, right? And so I think shorter is better, and that helps from content creation, because, you know, so my business partner and I will talk about a topic, and then I'll take that topic and put it into 5 bullet points. And then I'll take those 5 bullet points and break them down into 3, right? How small can I get it? And then really try and get it down to a very small topic where, you know, 30, 60, I think 30 to 90 seconds is ideal. And, you know, who said, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter? Like, that definitely applies for short social media. The more you can hone in on really spending time to say less, to get a clear point across, I think LinkedIn, Instagram, those are the platforms that really, TikTok allows you to do a little longer form content, but in the beginning, shorter is better. And plus, I mean, it's easier to do, right? It's always easier to do a shorter video than a longer one.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
Okay, my first one is you just talked about it about I know that we aren't to this point in the challenge yet, but when we really start looking at our schedule, like our posting schedule, and we say, you know, I'm only going to post a video once every 2 weeks, let's just say. And I know that you've been running a consistent schedule for 2.5 years now that you've been
I'm
doing.
psychotic. Yeah.
So can you give me a peek behind the curtain in terms of stats? How much better does video perform for you than, let's say, your other posts where it's just like a quote or a photo or just text? Like, the reason that you're pushing video so hard is because it performs. So will you give us like an idea, like how much better?
So here's what I will say. Yes and no. Okay. So video and picture both do really well, right? So if there's a picture of Liz, if there's a video of Liz, that's always going to get more engagement than almost anything else. Well, I do fun posts. And so sometimes I do a meme post, like I did a Saved by the Bell one and people went nuts for that. And I did a Shania Twain post and people went nuts for that. But in general, right, outside of those like weird, super niche things, video and picture are always going to perform better. Okay. The reason that I can actually, when we get back together, I can pull some stats. And if you guys go, this sounds like I'm plugging my social media right now. If you go to my LinkedIn, in December, I'm posting my top 26 posts by impression. So that's how I judge, right? My goal is to increase, my LinkedIn is top of funnel. So I want as many people to see my post as possible. The reason for that is people see your post if the algorithm likes it. The algorithm likes it if the people in your network like it, right? So even if y'all aren't clicking a like button or commenting, if there's a lot of impressions, it's me because people watch the video, right? And my goal is to get more people to watch it. And so video definitely, it's video and then there's some photos in there. And so you can see the countdown of what they were and how they performed. Why video for me is so important is because people have a very hard time telling the difference between watching me on a video on LinkedIn, interacting with me on a webinar like this, and having a conversation with me in real life. The lines are very, very blurred. And if you've met someone that you followed on LinkedIn for a while in real life, that is a true thing. It's like, I feel like I know you, but I don't know you. I know I'm meeting you for the first time, but I'm not really, like, this is a weird situation, right? So for little Liz, who has to go into these networking environments, right? Or Jen, for you, who's trying to convince people why you're a leader that someone would want to come and work under, right? Having video just allows you to build deeper relationships, Laura, that almost feel, to your point, one-on-one on a one-to-many level, right? And so if I show up enough talking and moving and sounding like Liz sounds in the real world, then I walk in the real world and I get stopped and people say, Liz, I see you. Liz, I know you. Liz, I want to talk to you, right? And so that just really helps me with my why, which is meeting new people, building my connections, building my top of funnel, building my business, making money, right? All of those things just kind of go hand in hand. And so video is super important. Video also, the LinkedIn wants video, right? And so video is prioritized on it. I would also say there is a lack of good video on LinkedIn. And I'm not saying I do great video, right? But I do think I do pretty decent short form content. I do think I do pretty topical content. And, you know, there's a lot of people talking for 5, 10, 20 minutes on LinkedIn, right? And sometimes that's me because I do LinkedIn lives as well too. But I think because there is a lack of good content, if you can figure out what content your audience will watch, doing video content does help you grow your audience, right? If I was not doing video content, none of you on this call would have a relationship with me in the way that we have a relationship now, whatever that is, right? A picture is only going to get you so far, and it just allows you to go deeper. And so I tell people I think some video should be part of everyone's strategy, even if that's one strategic video that you pin on the top of your LinkedIn profile talking about you as an executive for your recruiting team or something like that. But that's why I think when you're creating your schedule, it's not just about video, right? It's about what video looks like with the other types of posts you're doing that all support those content pillars in a strategic fashion, because the algorithm and your audience want to know what to expect from you and when to expect it. And they both start responding to seeing you in a repeated way over time, right? They know what to expect. So they're going to start showing up, looking, and engaging in a different way too. I don't know if that super answered your question, but
Yeah,
maybe that was helpful. Okay.
Yeah. And several points I wouldn't have thought of. I'm really grateful for your insight about it. Okay, and then I have one more question, and I know we're running up on time, and I want to be.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I have a hot second if other people have to drop, but I have a hot second to answer any questions that you have or anybody else has too.
Okay. Luckily, I don't have any like bosses. I mean, I have my client.
Lucky Molly.
I know, like people I want to join Athena's council, I consider my
Sure.
bosses, right? Like the members of my bosses. And they would celebrate any visibility that I, seek. But I have worked in companies where when women or maybe anybody, I don't know, but I've seen this phenomenon multiple times with women who, they'll go to LinkedIn and I don't have all their background info on their why or anything, but I'll see them becoming more visible. And there's a backlash internally. And I think it's because, I think it's for many reasons, but one of them is obviously, I think higher ups are going to be thinking like, why is Laura doing these LinkedIn videos? Is Laura looking for a job? Is Jen looking to jump ship and find a different job? Blah, blah, blah. So, and maybe this is beyond the scope of this, but I'm wondering if we could work out a strategy that, how do you do that gracefully where people don't get scared?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I love that. I have like 75 million thoughts right now. Can we keep talking for an hour? Two things I would say off the top of my head though is number one, let's use Jen as an example. Thank you, Jen. I would first and foremost be upfront with the leadership team, right, about what you're doing, right, and why you're doing it. I think especially, your why has a huge benefit, right? You're trying to help the company recruit good talent, and that's hard anywhere, right? And so again, they're not paying money for ads, Sure, maybe you're asking for a marketing resource, but I think you need to be proactive and upfront. And I think, Molly, to your point, LinkedIn used to be the place where you went to when you were looking for a new job or you got a new job, right? And so I think that is definitely some legacy feelings there. The trends going into 2025 in marketing, everything that I'm seeing is the trend of using personal employees' social media to bring and exemplify the brand of the company, right? And so that is where, look at it. I don't interact with brands, right? I interact with people. We interact with people that support brands, right? And so I think the pendulum is swinging. That does not mean that at individual companies it has swung. And we all know that mortgage is so far behind the swinging everywhere, right? However, I do think that this is a great topic for us to continue to talk about, Molly, and formulate maybe a playbook, right? I also think that underlines the point of the power of being out there on LinkedIn, because if you do have a network and you do have a strong reputation, okay, company, if you are mad at me because you think I was looking at another job and now start to treat me different and not give me opportunities, I do have a power of a network that I'm building where I can do what you thought I was doing that I wasn't doing, right? And so I just think there's power in understanding that, I mean, especially in the ops world, let's face it, like there's historically a lot of pressure to keep good people where you need to keep them, right? And so I think long term the tides are turning, but I think there's a lot of reasons that that's powerful. And Molly, when I was at Standing in Line and Empower, I had a conversation with someone that I'm like, I haven't seen you much on social media, and she said, yeah, I got some backlash from my direct manager. So
I've
I
seen
mean,
it so many times, and I
and
think
she's in sales,
Yeah.
Oh
sales.
my goodness. So Molly, my direct boss, when I joined Athena's Council and started being more active on LinkedIn, we had this exact conversation. And she was very old school thinking about it. And she's only 10 years older than me. So it was an odd conversation. And I did have to educate up a little bit and help them understand that LinkedIn is not just the place to go find a job. So I kind of correlated it to Lenders One Cooperative, which we're a part of. And we very much stay in connection with those people we've known for years and go to the summits. And it's just another avenue to do some of those same things, but with a different group of people. But it was why are you doing this? What are you trying to get out of it? And are you looking for another job, in a very ticked off way kind of thing? And I had to kind of just do some quick education, matter of factly on the spot. It worked, but it's weird, and I've experienced it personally. I don't have those same feelings for my team, and I think my team knows that, but it's a weird thing to battle. And I'm like,
maybe with the support of, like, one of the things that you mentioned, Jen, was that your recruiters were really excited about this. Maybe if they are part of that transparent conversation where they say, like, listen, we need the executives with points of view to get out on LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. And then it's not so much Jen saying, I'm going to go and do this. It's more like, well, okay, I'll help the company. Is that too flimsy? But it might help
For
to
sure.
bring those internal advocates along in the conversations.
Well, I think there's interesting parallels, right, in different generations of leadership. And Jen, I do think that age difference can be a big one, right? Especially kind of in the generations that we're talking about. And I think, there is a generation of women above me that did not have empathetic leadership, right? And did not have, because they couldn't to be successful, or thought they couldn't to be successful, right? And so I think that there are a lot of parallels between kind of that thought process and kind of that old school leadership, right? And the folks that have a hard time understanding why they should let their people be on social media. And again, like you said, there's an evolution, and it's an evolution. I've heard this is like, we're going to all be known as the technology generation, because there's just so much change that has gone on, since before I was born till after I'll die right now, with all of the technology innovation. So it is hard to keep up, and we do have to educate up a lot of times, right? But especially in mortgage, these folks that are running these companies have only had to do things that they have been good at for a very long time, and social media and technology looks a lot different than it used to, right? And so we're asking people to think a lot differently, and that involves, I think, Molly, to your point, a playbook, or at least some talking points for the women and people of Athena's Council to have, right, to be able to help educate, because I do think it's something that the industry overall needs, right? This is a win-win for organizations as well too. So I love that. I think that's something we can keep talking about on these calls as well too, as we move the conversation along.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This has been so much fun. I love doing this, Molly. Thanks for letting me just like blabber about, something that I don't know if I know that much about, but I love talking about,
No.
and passionate about. And
I
Laura,
really
great to
do
hang
too.
out with you. Jen, great to actually meet you in Zoom life and spend some time with you tonight, and look forward to
It's
getting
funny.
to know more as well too.
When you were talking about that different type of relationship when you meet someone for the first time, and I came into this when I first saw your face, I'm like, oh, I already know Liz, but I don't. So it's so funny when you were saying that.
Yeah.
The connection is really different when you follow someone and meet them in person. So I think that's a real life example of what you were explaining was happening.
It is, if you would have told me 2.5 years ago, the power of just showing up on video and trying, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. And I think, again, for us as women in social media, at our age as leaders in mortgage, right, there is such an opportunity for us to leverage that and be an example for the next generation on how to use it effectively, right? We're not just talking about showing up to showing up. We're talking about how to use it to strategically meet your goals and help other people. And I think that's super cool. So Molly, thanks for the community. And I support everything that you're doing. And I'm excited to keep working with everybody here on achieving all of our goals.
I mean, imagine what kind of effect we can, if it's just the four of us moving forward, doing these individually and as a team, the impact could be pretty significant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing I'll say, it's progress over perfection. So it's not about getting this perfect and executing a perfect 90 days, right? I mean, I've been trying to roll out one Instagram video a week or reel a week for, I don't know, 7 months, and I can get it consistently for 3 weeks. Then I fall off the wagon again and say, so, this is about us just coming together, supporting each other and getting better. So that's doable, right? I mean, we can all make mistakes and get better from that. I think we've all done that before. So that's easy. We got this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody.
Have a great,
you.
wonderful rest of your evening, and happy holidays. Safe travels to you, Molly. I look forward to hearing all about your adventures on the other side.
Thank you. Good night,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.